Hello everyone, Ace here, and today I've decided to have yet another look at some video game history, and in the process answer the question, what exactly made Star Wars X-Wing great? First released all the way back in 1993 and spawning the X-Wing franchise, Star Wars X-Wing is a true classic among Star Wars fans, and is a game whose influence on the lore of Star Wars cannot be understated. But to understand why this is the case, let's look at what exactly made the game great. And the first thing is the fact that it took the formula used by games such as Wing Commander and applied them to the Star Wars universe, allowing players to fly such classics as the X-Wing, the A-Wing, and the Y-Wing, for example. Although it is also worth noting that the developers, Totally Games, had a fair amount of experience up to this point making flight simulators set in World War II, specifically Battlehawks 1942, Their Finest Hour, and Secret Weapons of the Luftwaffe, all three of which are classics in their own right. So while it was a new idea to make a proper flight simulator set in the Star Wars universe, the developers behind this game were nevertheless veterans of flight sims in general, and proved completely capable of making a game that, while extremely fast-paced and action-packed, nevertheless was still a flight sim at heart and felt completely faithful to what Star Wars was at that time. That said, it is worth noting that Star Wars X-Wing could not rely exclusively upon existing lore. For the game to truly work, it would have to actively create lore itself, which brings me to the next thing that made this game great. That being that Star Wars X-Wing is the progenitor of much of the lore surrounding the various starships of Star Wars. It's important to keep in mind that prior to this game, while people did understand that X-Wings, A-Wings, and Y-Wings existed within Star Wars, it was not actually established what the specific roles of these various starfighters were. It really was ultimately this game that established that the A-Wing was a proper interceptor, or that the Y-Wing was a heavy fighter slash bomber. And given that this is a proper flight simulator, we of course also get a detailed look at what these various starfighters are actually capable of. So needless to say, the additions that this game made to the lore of Star Wars cannot be understated. But it's not even just the game itself that made additions to the lore, as I now have to also bring up the strategy guide for it as another reason why this game is great. Simply put, the strategy guide to Star Wars X-Wing is one of the best strategy guides ever made, not only detailing how to play the game, but also being a massive lore dump in its own right, to the tune that some longtime fans have been known to refer to the Star Wars X-Wing strategy guide as something of a Bible when it comes to old school Star Wars lore. And simply put, when even the strategy guide of your game is considered an important piece of video game history that greatly expands upon the lore for the universe within which your game is set, well, that's a sign that your game truly has had a notable impact. Especially when your game just so happens to be set in one of the most popular and well-known sci-fi universes of all time. So with that all in mind, this has been Ace, and I hope you'll agree when I say that Star Wars X-Wing is great.